Hello everyone, welcome to Ansarkari. So today we'll be taking up the newspaper for 28th of March. So over here we have the first article, Center to borrow rupees 8 lakh crore in first half of the next fiscal. Now so this would be done in the first half of the next fiscal, and this is 54% of the annual gross borrowing target of rupees 14.82 lakh crore from the market. So the schedule is basically calibrated, and the actual spending of the requirement of the government is now come to achieve optional savings in the interest cost. And this cross market borrowing in the first half would be completed through a 26 weekly auctions, and the government will basically carry out switching by back of securities to smoothen the redemption profile. And in continuation, the government will continue to reserve the rights to exercise green show option, which would help retain an additional subscription of rupees 2000 crore against each of the securities indicated in these auctions notifications. And when we talk about the budget for financial year 26, the government has basically chosen to move the debt to debt reduction as the core fiscal strategy, foregoing rigid annual fiscal deficit target and set for an aim to reduce the ratio of the central government debt to GDP 50% by the financial year of 31. So this is the target. Then we have the next article, preparation for rape versus attempt to commit rape. Now, this is regarding the breaking of strings of pajama of a minor child and also grabbing it. The Supreme Court stayed on the role of the Allahabad High Court when it said that this is hardly constituted as an offense of attempt to rape, and it merely amounts to preparation of rape instead. So they deleted the charges of attempt to rape and directed that the accused should be treated for the minor offense of assaulting or using criminal force against the women under section 354B of the Indian Penal Code. So this is of the POSCO Act 2012, and this is basically an attempt to commit an offense, certain changes which must be proved. So this includes accused making preparations to commit the offense and not how the offense was actually committed. So accused did have the intention to commit and it did made preparations to commit. However, when we talk about it happening, that did not happen, and the penultimate act takes place, and an accused cannot be held guilty for merely making preparations without taking any actions. This is what the court has said. And this may we also have an example of a 2 centuries old Lloyd ruling, which also continues to act as a basis for deciding if an accused attempts to commit the offense of the rape. Then we have Gaia, the European cartographer of the cosmos. So, the European Space Agency shut down its space observatory mission Gaia, and this was launched in December 2013. And it basically aims to create the most precise three-dimensional map of the galaxy. So, it was formerly known as the Global Accerometric Interferometer for Astrophysics, and it was designed to map the universities by accurately measuring the positions and motions of stars and various celestial objects. So it is positioned at Lagrange point 2. And when we talk about Gaia's observations, so it has shown the scientists the shape of the Milky Way, which is a central bar with a spiral arms. And also, it has revealed how the Milky Way history is both more dynamic and more complex than what we've originally thought. So even despite the scope and magnitude that Gaia holds, it is likely mapped only about 2% of the 100 billion stars that are present in the Milky Way, and the bulk of the data still remains to be processed. So it has been discontinued now. Moving on to the next article, we have India's deep sea challenges. So, when we talk of operating in the depth of the ocean, that is a challenge which India must embrace to maximize the economic potential and protect the security interest. So, when we talk about the average act of the exclusive economic growth, the depth of the water, the ocean, which is 3,741 meters, which is a lot, but it is still shallow when we're comparing to the deep ocean or the depth that the ocean holds. And when we talk about operating in the deep sea, which requires a distinct technology and extremely specific capabilities, which are challenging and expensive to develop. So, if we talk about the challenges that we have with the deep sea, the first is sound. So, sound, it can travel long distances underwater, but its propagation is seriously affected by the hydrological conditions, just the temperature, pressure, and salinity of the ocean. And also pressure underwater, it increases. So, it increases by approximately 1 atmosphere for every 10 meter of the ocean depth. And also vessels which descend to such depth, they need to be constructed using particular material and processes in order for them to operate safely. So to be able to ride on the blue economy in future, India must have technologies to harness the resources of the ocean and the seabed. And the ocean is a store of resources from fish, minerals, gas, hydrates, oil and gases, and nutraceuticals to the oceanographic data, which helps in combining climate change and contributing to meteorological research. Now, it is important to harness these resources in order to maximize India's economic potential. And for every new technology, essential prerequisites for developing deep sea technologies are financial strength, academic and research capabilities, as well as highly qualified, skilled human labor. And basically, establishment of institutes of excellence in deep sea research will help nurture academic excellence, expertise, and skills in this area. And also, India needs to incentivize its aspect of science and engineering through generous funding and strong empowered body to drive the multi-dimensional mission forward at a faster than the usual pace. We have the next article regarding the story of Miyazaki and the Studio Ghibli. So currently, of the Studio Ghibli style images which have taken over the internet after OpenAI, it released one of its most advanced image generator yet. So people on the world, they've been using this AI chatbot to adapt images to a distinctive style which was developed by the legendary Japanese animator Hayao Miyazaki. And Miyazaki, he was born in Tokyo 1941 and he got hooked into manga. So, manga was a popular and distinctive style of Japanese comic and graphic novels. And after studying economics and political science at the university, he began his career as an animator. So, in 1963. And after that, he had various series like Masterpiece Theatre and Film. Examples are Wonderful World of Puss in Boots and The Future Boy Corner before he founded Studio Ghibli. And over the years, it developed a distinctive aesthetic and is one of the most founded admired around the world. And even when the computer animation has taken over the world, Miyazaki's work is defined by the fact that behind each frame there is a labor of human illustrator, which was often Miyazaki himself. And it talks about how he would never wish to incorporate technology into his work at all, and how humans are losing faith in themselves in their own work. So, when we talk about the Studio Ghibli stories, they're deeply political and they contain complex characters who blur the binary between good and evil. A debate at the core of separation of powers. So, in this, we begin with the NJAC Act, which was passed in 2014 by the Parliament. And this act was originally passed to replaced the prevalent collegium system for higher judicial appointments in India. And in this act, appointments were to be made by the NJAC. So that would comprise of the CJI as a chairperson, two senior Supreme Court judges, the Union Minister of Law and Justice, and members and two eminent members from the civil society. However, this was struck down by the apex court, and even the vice president, Jagdeep Dhankar, has said that things would have been different had this act been passed. So, with the discovery of cash at the judge's residence, it has reckoned this debate of this act and how the appointment to the high judiciary should happen. So currently, judges are appointed through the collegium system, and it basically has a CGI and four senior most judges of the Supreme Court to appoint transfer of the elevated justice. And the government, it can raise objections and seek clarifications about the collegium choices. However, if the same names are back, the government is bound to appoint them in the higher courts. So the system, it is unique because it has evolved through a series of Supreme Court judgments and not by an act of parliament or constitutional provision. So the NJAC was touted as a solution to the lack of accountability in the judiciary that was felt by the other two pillars of the government. So this was legislative and executive. So now prominent voices, they are in favor of revisiting this NJAC Act. Judges asset. So this is a continuation of the judges only. And when we talk about in a meeting in 1997, which was chaired by CJI J.S. Verma, the Supreme Court adopted a resolution which had stated how every judge should make a declaration of all assets in the form of real estate or investment held in their names in the name of their spouses or any other person dependent on them to the Chief Justice. And as of now, we have 770 judges in all high courts put together, but there are only 97 judges who have publicly declared their assets and liabilities. So this amounts to less than 13% of all the high court judges. इसमें we also have the Uttarakhand High Court in 2012 when it passed a resolution stating how it strongly objects to bring disclosure of assets by judges under the purview of the Right to Information Act. Is when we talk about public servants, they are also mandated to declare their asset, and this information is often easily accessible to the ordinary citizens according to the RTI Act, which seeks to promote transparency and accountability in the working of the government. And over the years, it has played a very important role in this. Sagaing faults is regarding the earthquake in Myanmar. So it was a powerful earthquake of magnitude 7.7 and at least six aftershock. It struck the central Myanmar on Friday, and which brought buildings down in the country. It was in the second largest city, Mandalay, and it killed at least 144 people. Now, when we talk about what caused this earthquake, so this was the Earth's lithosphere. So, lithosphere is the rigid outermost rocky shell of the planet, which is made up of a number of titanic plates, and these have been slowly moving over the last 3 to 4 billion years, with their interaction responsible for many of the planet's geological features. So when earthquake occurs when two tectonic plates, they suddenly slip past one another, which releases stored up elastic strain energy in the form of seismic waves, and it causes the ground to shake. So this faults market the tectonic plates boundaries between the Indian plate to the west and the plate to the east, and the Indian plate is moving north along the fault compared to the Eurasian plate. And the Myanmar frequently experiences earthquake due to this fault, and it's called as the Sejong fault. And we have Erdogan's new gambit. So this is regarding Turkey, where it has jailed the main political challenger to the country's authoritarian president. And इसमें we have Ekrem Moglu, who was the three-time mayor of Istanbul, and he was arrested on 19th of March, on the same day when Turkey's opposition Republican Party declared Imamoglu as its candidate for the 2028 presidential elections after a party-wide primary vote that the mayor won decisively. So he's one of the most prominent political rival of the president, and he has been a resident charged of bribery, fraud, organized crime, and terrorism, and it against the first of its power in the prime minister in 2003. And after coming to power, he took a political gamble to curtail the power of military, which was the spearhead of Turkey, and he trenched secular establishment, and he also embarked zero problem with the neighbors policy. So this basically undermined Turkey's military oversized role in the country's politics. And by 2011, after reform agenda had enabled the defeat of the military and establishment of an effective monopoly on power, he was ready to transition to a popular Islamic brand of politics. So in 1970s, Turkey's then psychology judiciary had pursued and eventually qualified the country's first openist Islamic party, which was the National Order Party, founded by one of the most prominent mentors of Erdogan. And it also perceived threat from the Kurdish Workers' Party, which had gained a lot of Turkey's policy abroad and also helped in Erdogan's authoritarian project. And when we talk about the change in the Turkey's neighborhood, that is also open up room for for Erdogan to make an attempt to dismantle his domestic opposition 3 years ahead of elections. We have why PIO footballers can't play for the Indian team even if they want to. So this means the first example is given of the English-born defensive midfielder Hamza Chaudhary, who now plays for the Bangladesh football team. And he had played 7 games for the English under 21 till 2018. And since he was born to a Bangladeshi mother and with next to no prospect of making it to the start of English side, he switched his international allegiance last year to Bangladesh. So such is not uncommon for sportsperson to represent countries to which they trace their ancestries, even if they have not born here or grown up here. Similarly, a PIO is a foreign national who was born in India or whose parents, grandparents, or even great grandparents were born in India or territories that later became part of India. So, even oversized citizenship of India is a form of permanent residency which is available to PIO, which allows them to live and work in the country and travel to a country without visa. But it stopped short of allowing a dual citizenship. So now for a PIO footballer who wants to represent India, they must first give up their foreign passport and get an Indian one in order to represent India. And the only document which is considered to be a valid proof of players is a player's identity and nationality should be permanent. So in international passport, that explicitly in a Latin character states the player's full name, date of birth, place of birth, and nationality according to the FIFA commentary on the rules governing their eligibility to players for representing any team. And when we talk about this, we have a lot of Indian origin footballers who want to play for the national team, but they are reluctant to give up their British passport. And this is because doing so will make it harder for them to play in Europe, which would contribute to India's low rank when it comes to FIFA. So, why is a country's FIFA rank important? This is because it is a key criteria based on which the international players are issued work visas to play in Britain and European countries. And currently, number of players of Indian origins who play in European top 5 leagues. Many believe that bringing these players into the Indian would set up and immediately lift the quality of the national team. But in order to do so, the PIO guidelines must change. So Prahlad Joshi, who's a new and renewable energy minister, says we're the third largest producer of renewable energy, and he's also quite confident how we will achieve the production target of 500 gigawatt by 2030, since we've received investment commitments of rupees 32 lakh crore till now. Center puts 28 coal mines on the block. So, coal mines show how the Ministry of Coal launched the 12th round of commercial mine auctions along these mines. We have two ignite reserves catering to diverse energy requirements, of which are fully explored in the 12 and are partially explored, providing opportunity for both image and future development when it comes to mines. So, seven mines were offered under the Coal Mine Act of 2015 and 18 under the Mines and Minerals Act of 1957. In addition to this, the Coal Ministry has offered three partially explored coal mines that were unsuccessfully put on the block in the 11th round. So, this is the second attempt to auction these three blocks, and the aim is to provide significant investment opportunities. The RBI may tweak framework for liquidity management. So the Reserve Bank of India is meeting lenders next week to discuss the liquidity management framework and how it could announce changes at its April policy meeting. So this come has made a sharp depletion of banking system liquidity, which was largely due to aggressive dollar selling intervention by the central bank in the foreign exchange market, and how any change in the liquidity framework could be notified alongside the monetary policy decision, where the RBI is expected to cut rates for the second time this year. Interchange fee hike to boost ATM expansion. So the rise in the ATM interchange fees will basically boost expansion of the ATM networks, and it will encourage banks and operators to increase their investments. So white label ATM operators and banks says that a fee hike would help offset higher compliance cost, and the reserve fee structure will come into effect from the 1st of May. And the hike was long overdue as operational costs have risen over the past few years, and the numbers of ATMs stopped from 2,19,000 September 2023 to 2,15,000 in 24. RBI set to double investment limit for foreign individuals. So the RBI set to double the investment for foreign individuals in listing firms to 10% from the current 5%. And RBI will also raise to 24% of the combined holding limit for all overseas individual investors in a listed company from 10% now, and a single for investors holding of 10% along with associates could exceed 34% trigger takeover rules. Information integrity. So the National Statistical Office, it has reportedly tested how the GST tax data to compute the gross domestic production is prelude to the NSO formally making use of information on the indirect tax levied on a wide game out of transactions to estimate private consumption, the largest expenditure component of the GDP, and it's undeniable that India's statistical system is fraught with multiple infirmities and rigidities. Increasing instances of various sets of official data shows dichotomy with the information sets and gathering by the private agencies and the anecdotal narrative. So this issue is being cited in informed circles, including lack of transparency, absence of enough granular data, and methodology for sample connection and services also being outdated. Future proofing the gas sector. Now, when we talk of India, so a well developed transmission infrastructure is a fundamental pillar of the competitive gas market. And when we talk about the Indian gas market, that holds immense potential to support its energy transitions, particularly as efforts intensify to integrate clear and sustainable energy resources. However, inefficiencies in the transportation capacity allocation and access mechanism, it has constrained market growth, and we have key challenges in such as outdated regulatory framework, consolidation of marketing and transportation functions, and lack of transparency. So necessitate urgent reforms. One of the primary challenges affecting the industry is an outdated code that governance and the access to pipelines, date and related procedures. So basically, an absence of mechanism such as day ahead or within capacity, bookings, flexibility, and stiff to development of a market-oriented balancing system. And integration of marketing and transportation function adds another layers of complexity, and organizations to integrate these functions to reap benefits like the elimination of imbalance challenges and reducing the booking response time for their bundle agreements while imposing more rigorous conditions on their ties. So this access code that needs to be revised, and according to current market needs and global benchmark, it is reducing the response time for capacity reservations and implementing provisions for day ahead and within day agreement will build flexibilities and even increase the market. So implementing this would basically enable real-time access to information on pipeline capacity and create an open role-based structure, and also eliminating the right of free use, encouraging fair competition between bundled, entitled, and third-party participants would also promote participation and innovation in the gas sector. Then we have the next article, Transactions Trouble. This regarding the digital payment and how a study has revealed what the youth expects from the digital transactions and the specific reason for their frustration with the current payment system. With 67% of respondents stating how the financial loss is the biggest frustration, and 44% perceive missing out on rewards financial loss, and 48% believe a lack of awareness of better payment method leads to financial loss. 70% prefer it for small spendings, and 81% use it for in-person transactions. So this is basic data of how the youth perceives digital payments. Steps taken for regular power supply. So the government has taken steps to ensure uninterrupted power supply and meet the projected peak amount of 277 gigawatt in 2025-26, and the country is confident to meet this project demands with optimal usage of existing and under construction capacities. So basically, planned maintenance of generating units is being minimized during the high demand period, and steady supply of coal to all thermal power plants is being ensured to prevent fuel shortages. Then we have Powerthon. So Powerthon is basically a hackathon competition under RDSS, which is Revamped Distribution Sector Scheme, and it is to find technology-driven solutions to solve the complex problems in power distribution. So it would basically have participation from startups, technology solution providers, educational and research institution, equipment manufacturers, and state power utilities and other power entities. Problem areas is talking about how ensuring accurate demand, yeah, load forecasting, demand side management, improving the power quality, and basically what are the targets? which would basically attract the startups. Then we believe in Vasudeva Kutumbakam, but unable to remain united even with close kin. So this is regarding the erosion of the institution of the family. And the Supreme Court on Thursday said that people believe in the Vasudeva Kutumbakam but fail to remain united even with the close kin. So Vasudev Kutumbakam basically means Earth as a whole is one family. However, today we're not even being able to retain the unity of the immediate family, forget about the whole of Earth. And what is your building one family for the world, and also how the very concept of family is being eroded, and we're on the brink of one person, one family. So it's regarding the various disputes, or even the smallest of disputes ends up breaking the families. CM Shri schools with robotic labs. So basically, these are facilities which will be available across 60 solar power and zero waste campuses of CM Shri schools in Delhi, in tune with the Center PM Shri schools outlining the by the Delhi's education ministers. So even the BJP government, it has announced fresh initiatives in this sector, including Rashtra Niti curriculum, new era of entrepreneur ecosystem and vision, which is aimed at installing governance and policy making skills among school students. So far, for digitization, free laptop would be given to those excelling in class and exams as well, and also ensuring there would be no delay in payments to the teachers and staff. India, not Dharamshala. So this is regarding the immigration, and the Union Minister has said that those who come to India for development are welcome, but those who are willing to create conflict in any way, action would be taken against them. So this came with the Immigration Foreign Act 2025, which is aimed at regulating immigration entry and stay of firms in India by a voice vote. So, to bolster national security and economy, to make our universities global, to lay the foundation to make this country, this bill is very important. So, there is Section 3, where there is a provision for denying entry to someone who's a threat to national security, and blacklist has a legal backing as well. So, being the fifth largest economy in the world, people coming to the country is natural, and there will be proper database for those who come to the country. So this would help in medical tourism, ecotourism, heritage tourism, and the hospitality sector. So this bill basically mandates registration of owners arriving in India, empowering the center to disallow a foreign entry into India or exit from India, and to decide what kind of activity the founders should not engage in. So under this bill, any for entering India without passport and visa will be liable to sentence up to 5 years in jail or a fine of rupees 5 lakhs. This article is regarding Indian Bangladesh ties. The Prime Minister wrote to Bangladeshi chief advisor for taking forward the bilateral ties based on sensitivity to each other's concern. And this basically stands as a testament to the shared history and sacrifices which have played a important role in the foundation of the bilateral partnership. And the spirit of liberation war of Bangladesh continues to remain a guiding light in the relationship, which has flourished across multiple domains, bringing tangible benefits to the people. So we must remain committed to advancing this partnership driven by a common aspiration for peace, stability, prosperity based on mutual sensitivity to each other's interests and concerns. So India's relation with Bangladesh, they took a hit after violence against Hindu minorities took place, and the Minister of External Affairs is repeatedly condemning the violence, urging Bangladesh to protect the religious institution. This was the last article. Thank you, everyone.